If you're looking to start an online business, you may be wondering, should I start alone or should I start with a business partner or a couple of partners? I'm going to help you answer that question, give you the pros and cons of each, and tell you exactly when it makes sense to go it alone and when it makes sense to partner up in the end. So stick around. Hi everyone, it's Kevin from Solopreneur. I wanted to share a bit about my experiences working both on a number of solo businesses and a number of businesses with partners. Really quickly, I ran an e-learning agency, an organization for 6 years with a business partner. It was a great experience. I also had a software startup with 2 business partners, also was a great experience. And at the same time, I've also run numerous individual businesses, multiple e-commerce store, this Solopreneur channel you see right here. So I'm about split down the middle when it comes to working with business partners and going it alone. And in this video, I'm going to share exactly when each of these makes sense. And then I'm going to give you some criteria you can use to decide what's best for you. Well, I just realized my hands are all orange from cooking. I was working with some spices, of course, but never mind that. Let's get back to the video. Firstly, when I'm talking about businesses here, I'm talking about online businesses, so not traditional businesses. So that's the first thing. And the next thing is just keep in mind there are some businesses, online businesses, that are virtually impossible or extremely difficult to start alone. So let me give you a really quick example. A tech startup. So for example, if you're making a software application, generally speaking, at the bare minimum, you're going to need 1 business person and 1 developer. That's the bare minimum. So you need the hacker and the hustler, they call it. Now, there's more to it than that, but you can imagine that if you're the developer and you're doing all the business, the marketing, you're trying to get investment, you're trying to talk to users, all of the things, the legal stuff, you can see how challenging it would be to go it alone. Again, possible to go it alone, but as an example, there are some business models that are just better suited for multiple people. So that is an example of one. But what I'm talking about here are businesses that can effectively be done alone or with a partner or 2. An example would be a YouTube channel, an e-commerce store, a blog, and that's probably what you're thinking about here too when you ask the question, should I do it alone or go with a partner? So that's exactly what I'm going to help you decide. Okay, so let's jump right into it. So what are the pros of going it alone? One of the pros is, and this cannot be underestimated, you get to work on your own schedule. So basically, if you have 2 hours at this time after work, if you have 2 hours on the weekend, if you have, and it's in the morning, it's at night, it's in the afternoon, whatever it is, when you're working alone, you set the schedule. This is much harder, obviously, if you have a partner and there are items that you need to work on together and then you need to wait till your schedules sync up. Now, if you get really good with working with a partner or 2, you can obviously try and delegate and delineate tasks and use a lot of good tools like Google Docs and whatnot to try and be able to work on your own schedule, so you can work around this a little bit. But at some point, you will have to wait till you guys sync up to do something. So this is one where if you're working alone, you have 100% freedom with your schedule. And this is especially important if you have a day job and you're trying to build this business on the side. You need to take the most advantage of whatever time you have, and you can't let hours and weeks go by waiting for your partner. So the next obvious and the best part about working alone or doing an online business by yourself is you get to keep all the profits. So not much more to it than that. You don't have to split it with anyone. And so if this takes off and it works out, everything is yours. Also, you're the boss. You get to make all the decisions uncompromised. Obviously, when you're working with partners, people have different ideas, and that can be a strength, and I'll talk about that later, but you get to make all the decisions, and you can make those decisions quickly because you only have to convince yourself. And lastly, if your business does grow, being a solo founder makes it a lot less complicated legally. Again, not the biggest deal, but as you can imagine, most people start out their businesses with a handshake kind of gentleman's or ladies agreement where it's, hey, we're going to do this together. We're going to split it down the middle. Cool. Let's do it. And then when things start to turn profitable, you'd be surprised to see how quickly that relationship and that dynamic can change. Trust me. And it might not even be a negative thing. It might just be like, oh shit, we never put a cap table together. We never actually have any documentation saying who owns how much of what share, this, that. All this legal stuff that only becomes imperative when you're trying to form a corporation and things of that nature for tax benefits. So again, not a big deal, but one thing about being a solo founder, that part's a lot easier. Hey, if you're getting value out of this video, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Now, what are the cons of being a solo founder? Firstly, all the risk is yours. So not just the business risk, but obviously the financial risk. If you put up all the money, if you lose it all, you lose it all, right? And so there's a lot of risk you take on by yourself. Then also, there's no one there to support you or help you or encourage you or even bounce ideas off. It's all really just you. Now, you can work around this by kind of working with mentors, reading good books, joining maybe a mastermind group with other entrepreneurs. There's ways to work around this so you don't feel as sort of lonely or isolated or something like that. But it's still you making those decisions, and you need to motivate yourself to keep going. And of course, the last thing is you have to do everything yourself, which can be challenging and time consuming. There are dozens and hundreds of things you need to do in a business to be successful, and I can guarantee you that you're not good at all of them. There's a good likelihood there's a ton of stuff you're going to have to learn, and that's fine, right? But you will just have to learn those things, and you're going to have to go it alone, right? Maybe you're really artistic, but maybe you're not a good writer. Maybe you're not good at accounting, but too bad. You're going to have to learn how to do these things, because you don't have a partner that maybe has that inclination, and then you can pass off those tasks to them. Now, switching over to having a partner or a couple of partners, what are the pros of that approach? Number one, you can potentially grow a lot faster because you have people working towards the same goal. Secondly, you might potentially have diverse skills and abilities and ideas in your group, which you can leverage. Like I was just talking about, maybe one of you's got a really strong creative background and the other person's got a really strong writing background or really strong technical background. You can see where there's less of a learning curve because there's people who can handle those critical tasks. And of course, you can bounce ideas off each other and you can encourage each other. So that is that camaraderie as well. And finally, you share all the risks with your partners, especially true for financial risk, right? So if there's an investment involved, usually you'll be splitting that so that even if the business doesn't work out, you won't have to be the one putting up everything. Okay, but what are the negatives of having partners, or the cons? So number one is you have to share the profits. So for example, you can imagine if you had a business making 300 grand a year, let's say an online business, that's amazing. As a single person, for most people, you're living quite a good lifestyle. But let's say you had two partners, you split that by 3, 100 grand, that's okay. That's probably around a well-paying job. There's a very big difference there. Next is there are more people involved, and of course that means that decisions can take longer because people have differences of opinion. As I mentioned, that could be a positive because you're getting different viewpoints, but it also can slow you down if there just needs to be a decision that needs to be made to move forward. Now, another big one, and probably the one I see the most often, and this is the biggest one if there's any reason to not have partners, and this is some people won't take the business as seriously or won't work as hard as everyone else. Everyone's going to have a different level of commitment. The chances are if there's 3 people or 4 people or 2 people, generally speaking, there may be one person who cares a little more, and then that person's job is kind of to be the leader and to kind of rah-rah and push everybody on. But sometimes you'll get a point where people are just really not into it anymore. Your partners, you might still be trying to get this business off the ground, but your partners are ready to quit, or they don't want to do it anymore, or they've found something else they're interested in. So that becomes really complicated if your partners aren't as committed as you. So that is a really, really big con of having partners. If you pick the wrong people, or people are human, right? Your interests and your priorities change. And lastly, scheduling. So you can burn a lot of time if you need your schedules to align to make decisions or to do certain things. And so if you're waiting on those scheduling conflicts to resolve itself, or to find time to talk together in order to take care of some business or to work on the next session or the thing you're planning, then that can burn a lot of time. Again, there are tools you can use like Google Docs and stuff like that, and forms and this and that to kind of work asynchronously, but there's always that lost efficiency. A good way to sort of mitigate this is to really know who has ownership of what. Like if one of you's in charge of marketing and the other person's like development and the other person is something else, then you know who kind of owns what group, and that person can be the decision maker kind of in that area. But not everyone has that team structure, and if you don't, it can be challenging, especially if both of you are kind of doing the same jobs. So I went over the pros and cons pretty quickly, and at this point you might be wondering, okay, so what should I do? I'm going to give you some helpful criteria to figure out if you should or shouldn't. I would say you should always go it alone, except in situations where you need a partner. So what I mean is, if it's possible for you to do the business and the core activities reasonably well by yourself, then you should do it. Like for example, if you're starting a videography business and you're pretty good at selling your services and you do all the recording and stuff, but you're not so good at accounting and you just need to learn some accounting, don't go off and find a partner just because you need to learn some accounting. Like that part of the business is maybe the 5% and you only need to know so little, right? So, but you can do the core business by yourself. You're better off just doing it by yourself. Conversely, I would say only partner up then if there are skills or a particular skill that you need that's extremely time consuming to learn, that's integral to the business. So going back to the software example, let's say you have a business background. For you to learn software development and learn how to develop your own app, that will literally take years. You can see how that's the kind of thing where it would make more sense for you to have the right partner. So many different businesses out there, so obviously I can't cover everything, but that to give you an example, if there's a core element of your business that you cannot do, that cannot easily be learned or easily be outsourced, then you should probably think about getting a partner. The only other time I would say you should get a business partner is if you've worked with someone before and you know you work well together and you both are on the same page, then that can be really, a little bit more fun. You're working with someone and you know you're going to be effective together because you've worked together. Outside of that, the short-term gains of having a business partner really aren't worth it in the online world, where a lot of online businesses are built to be automated, right? Like if you have an e-commerce store, once you get past the initial period, a lot of it becomes automated. So why would you want to be splitting the profits when, let's say you get your e-commerce store down to you only need to do a few hours of work a week. So let's say it's like 5 hours or 10 hours. Do you really want to be like, I wish I'm doing 2.5 hours instead of 5 hours and split that with one person? Doesn't make sense, right? In fact, what I would recommend for you guys is, yes, there will be skills you don't know how to do, but hiring freelancers to fill those gaps is easier than ever. The site I would recommend is Fiverr. And so you can see here, you can get help with graphics and design, digital marketing, writing and translation, video and animation, music, tech, business. Like if you're looking to get a contract made or you're looking to get a logo made or something like that, you can just hire a freelancer to do that for you. You don't need someone who's your partner. And I've built all my businesses like this that I've run alone. I've just hired the right people to help me in that time frame. Like sometimes I'm doing a lot of work and I'm working on the creative side and I need some data manipulated. I can hire someone to help me organize data in Excel or collect a list of potential prospects or whatever kinds of little tasks you need. You can just hire freelancers to do this for you, especially creative tasks like writing blogs, like creating maybe an infographic for you. You can get all of this done on Fiverr, and there are top tier sellers, a couple of $100, but there are people who are selling gigs for $5 US. Very affordable, and again, you'll have a small investment up front by you not having to split this with a partner, but in the long term, the profits are all yours. I'll link Fiverr in the description, check it out. So hopefully I've helped you figure out if getting a business partner is right for you and if you actually need one to get started with this business. If you found the video helpful, like and subscribe. We drop videos weekly. If you've worked with a business partner before or alone, love to hear your comments, share what your experiences were like, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.